All right, let's dive into an idea that sits right at the intersection of, well, physics, philosophy, and maybe even a little bit of poetry. It's called the calculus of divine agency, and it might just change the way you think about control in your own life.
So it all kicks off with this one equation. At first glance, it looks like something straight out of a calculus textbook, right? The limit of fate as latency approaches zero equals agency. But what if it's not really describing math? What if it's describing one of the most fundamental parts of the human experience? So the big question is this it? Could this simple, elegant-looking formula actually be the key to understanding free will itself? The hidden link between, destiny and our personal power to choose? Let's break it down and see what's going on. Okay, to really get this thing, we've got to look at the two giants at either end of the equation, fate and agency. And on the surface, they seem like complete opposites, don't they? Like the two opposing poles of how we experience our lives.
Yeah, just think about it. On one side, you've got fate. That's the feeling that you're just a puppet on a string, that things are happening to you. Then on the other side, there's agency. That's the feeling that you're the one holding the pen. You're writing your own story. This formula, it's proposing that there's a direct, almost mathematical connection between the two.
Here's a simple way to think about it. Fate feels external. It's reactive. It's that feeling of being a passenger in a car. Stuff just happens to you. But agency, that's internal. It's proactive. It's the feeling of being the one behind the wheel. You're the one making things happen by you. Okay, so if there's such polar opposites, how in the world do you get from one to the other? Well, according to our formula, there's this one single super important variable, a kind of hidden ingredient that changes everything. And that ingredient is latency. Latency. What is that exactly? Well, simply put, it's a delay. It's the gap in time between when you do something and when you see the result of that action. It's that little space between the cause and the effect. And that sounds almost too simple, doesn't it? How can a simple delay hold so much power over our entire sense of control? To really get a feel for it, let's use an analogy that I think a lot of us can relate to. Picture this. You're playing a video game. You see a pit, you need to jump. So you press the jump button. That's your input. But the game has high latency, what we gamers call lag. So for a half second, absolutely nothing happens. By the time your character finally gets around to jumping, it's way too late. You fail. Now, does that feel like you were in control? Not at all. It feels like the game is fighting you. It feels like fate. All right, so we've got our pieces, right? We have fate, we have agency, and now we have this critical idea of latency. So let's put it all back together and actually watch how this transformation happens. So just like with that laggy video game, when there's a big delay in real life between your actions and their consequences, your sense of agency just kind of evaporates. You study for a test for weeks, but you don't get the grade for months. You start a new project, but you won't know if it was a success for years. That disconnect, that high latency, makes your own choices feel distant and almost ineffective. It feels like you're not in control. It feels like fate. But what happens if we start to shrink that delay? Imagine that time between your decision and the outcome getting shorter and shorter until the cause and the effect are basically happening at the exact same time. And when that delay just disappears, bam, your intention and the outcome become one and the same. They're a single, seamless event. You press the button, the character jumps instantly. You have a thought, you take an action. That feeling of being a helpless passenger, it's gone. And what's left is the undeniable reality of being the driver. That is agency. And just like that, we're back where we started, looking at this formula. But now it's not some weird mystery, is it? It's actually a really powerful statement. It tells us that our feeling of control isn't some fixed trait we're born with. No, it's a variable state, and it's directly determined by the speed of feedback between our actions and the world. And listen, this isn't just some abstract philosophical idea. The race to shrink latency, to get it closer and closer to zero, it's one of the biggest forces shaping our modern world right now. Let's look at a few real-world examples. Think about a master pianist. The latency between their musical intent and the sound coming from the piano is practically zero. It feels like the music is just flowing right through them. Or what about a pro boxer, whose reflexes close that gap between seeing a punch and dodging it almost instantly? In technology, we see it in high-frequency trading, where winning and losing is decided in microseconds. And even in our daily lives, it's the huge difference between sending an instant text and waiting months for a letter to cross an ocean. So if you take one thing away from all this, let it be this. Control is basically a function of speed.
The faster the feedback loop is between what you do and what happens, the more in control you feel. Agency isn't just about making a choice, it's about experiencing the consequence of that choice immediately.
And all of this leaves us with a pretty fascinating final question. Technology is constantly working to eliminate delay, right? In communication, in commerce, in everything. But if we could actually create a world of perfect, instantaneous feedback, a life with absolutely zero latency, would that be a utopia of pure agency? Or would we lose something essential in that process? The space for reflection, patience, and hope that can only really exist in the delay. What do you think?